guys are interpreting this to say?
I think it will be, as well as the public assistance program, which is recovery, which can add resiliency. For example, Hilton Coliseum, was flooded here a few times, and they did add some flood barriers, and University of Iowa got hit pretty bad. University of Iowa, Coralville, Iowa City, they've done tens of millions of dollars worth of mitigation, recognizing that they are in danger. And they want to test their flood walls on an annual basis, but they test them because they have to put them up. And so we recognize that, they recognize that. But one of the things that we are working on in Homeland Security effort is what can we do to reduce peak flows? And so what we look at is, our standard is that we repair what is already there, but can we reduce peak events? And those are the things that we're looking at, going up into the watershed and reducing that and working within the agricultural community. So instead of, and I don't mean this, instead of putting a Band-Aid on it, let's go up and work on what's the issue.
And my follow-up to that is, okay, so if these are floodplain analyses that have to be done and incorporated into your hazard grant mitigation program applications or whatever procedures, then what about the other side when they perform the cost-benefit analysis to determine if your mitigation project should be funded? Will these be added into that cost-benefit analysis? Because I know for a fact the Hilton situation, they weren't allowed to go as high as they wanted to go because the cost-benefit analysis didn't cost out based upon
current flood discharge relationship.
Exactly. So I think I don't know where to put that in all of these guidelines. There's what, 800 lines? Is that what that guy said? 800 lines?
That's what he
It's just that.
That's the Reader's Digest.
Sorry, you guys. I just over there having a hard time hearing. I'm wondering if you guys could just everyone do one big scoot inward, and then we can just talk closer to each other.
Yeah.
No, we appreciate that y'all are talking.
Yes, we just talking.
So Tom, you think that these new regs or standards would implement your hazard mitigation programs?
Well, I'm looking more at public assistance.
Public assistance.
I think that the 406 mitigation is probably going to be utilized more often.
Yeah.
Would be my
In
guess.
fact, I think
That's
the
more
intention.
public domain stuff, not your
Yeah.
private residence.
Right, yes.
But how that's implemented is still yet to be determined.
Yeah.
So, is there still confusion there? And maybe that's something that I'm sure you're probably commenting on and you maybe can help me out here is what the difference is of what's going to be affected.
Basically, how is the private citizen going to be affected
Right.
versus a public entity that's doing a project?
Right.
And 11988 is based on federal projects as opposed to individual projects getting federal funding. And it is kind of vague. And so that it would be a great comment to put down when they're talking about implementation of defining what kind of projects that it's actually going to be applied for.
And it sounds like there's some kind of ambiguity there too. If any kind of federal dollars are going into anything, how that's affected.
Absolutely. Is it a federal project, or is it any federal dollars being applied towards any project? Well, traditionally, it was not that way for an individual receiving assistance. This is talking more for a federal project using federal money and a federal situation, which is what 11988 covers, is federal agencies doing federal projects.
This is where this gentleman's question that we need to go into big time detail, because right now FHA is saying once this is kicked in, FHA insurance is going to be looking at this.
For individuals.
for individuals, not just the federal or the state or local governments.
And
And
that's,
so that's the question here is what's so important, how far are those tentacles going to reach?
exactly. And that's a great thing to be capturing, because we do need to define that and have that in our implementation.
Filter all the way down to community development block grant projects.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. And he mentioned GSEs, which are government-sponsored entities. We don't need to go on all that now, but they're not really technically government money, but who knows? Well, that's a good question.
And that's what we need to define in our implementation is where, how are these going to be implemented?
All the way down to the detail of what happens, the house is damaged, substantially damaged, so it gets money from FEMA to rebuild that house. They are to flood protect that in its rebuilt state. So it goes from the old map, 1 foot above.
Yeah, flood protector, what?
Well, but
The old map now it has to be.
No, individuals would be 1 foot above the current, and in fact, be 1 plus the current.
they will have to meet their current ordinance
They're not going to be
if they're
subject
more
to
than
this
50%
federal.
damage.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up, because it sounds like because that's FEMA federal money, they used to, pay for the
Well,
rebuilding of the structure.
that's where the separate, where Andy's talking about, you got to separate federal money from federal projects.
Right.
That's the difference.
If it's simply the payout of a flood insurance claim, there's not a change beyond what the local ordinance requires. If they get a grant dollar to subsidize that, the higher and stronger elements could kick in. But it's that federal grant dollar inserted in.
See, we went to we had that discussion where we expanded the term grant to loans, guarantees, et cetera. And so that's
And
really.
while you can speak more definitively on the HUD side than I can, it's the point by which the construction is taking place. And so I watched this play out in a number of post-event pieces. If you haven't hit the 50% threshold at all, so you're not reconstructing something, you're simply repairing it, these standards don't have an impact. If you are going to do that substantial improvement, it's 50% of the value, or it's new construction, it would apply.
That's the point I was bringing up right there. Then that person reconstructing more than 50% damage would need to meet the new standard. Is that what you just said, or not?
Let me separate person from entity. So I think that's where helping us, even in your comments, differentiate these various pieces. To the degree that you are, very few of your loans actually are for new construction. You do have a small set of them that are. So if it's for new construction, this applies. There's no other way to look at it. It applies. But the other kinds of things, refinancing, all those things, it doesn't change the reality on the ground. From an FHA perspective. But if you're using CDBG to build something new, this would apply.
Even for an individual homeowner that had flood insurance, that was substantially damaged, homes to rebuild, instead of 1 foot above the 100, now he's got to be 2 foot or at the 500.
So we can go offline on this. I think we need to look at the specifics of what you're talking about and where their funds are coming from. Because if they have flood insurance, they're getting almost, if not all, their money as a flood insurance claim, and this standard does not apply to a flood insurance claim.
If they're getting something else to help reconstruct it, it could.
So we're getting really short on time. I just want to really quickly wrap this up. I know there's a lot of scenarios that we can go over.
One more question though, seriously.
Yes.
Because we have HUD, and we have Army Corps, we have Homeland Security here. This was about climate science data and methods. As you currently do your work, what climate science data do you use? I mean, how would new climate science be reflected in what you use? It sounds like the 100-year flood is one really important thing.
there are people at headquarters, this is the biggest pun you're going to hear all day. The people at headquarters are a heck of a lot smarter than I am. Let the guys in policy and research figure out what the math is, what the data and science. I can't do it. Even if they told me to do it. So there's a pun.
Great question to clarify, capture in your notes as well. And so we are moving into different breakout sessions. If anybody would like to make a comment during our public comment time, take a speaker card and fill it out.